the Waqf, the Muslim religious authorities, to completely redecorate the Dome of the Rock. Completely, 1920. In the last years of King Hussein as King of Jordan, when he was well advanced in dying of cancer, he donated 90 kilos of gold for putting on the Dome of the Rock.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you, probably the most moving moment that I ever had in Jerusalem was when King Hussein piloted his own Learjet, which was decorated in the national colors of Jordan, and he had 2 F-16 outflyers who took him for a trip, a slow trip, through the air and the skies of Jerusalem, came over the place where I was at the foot of the Western Wall, and I swear to you, he did this with his wingtips.
How old was he? He was about to die.
He was about to die. He was still fit enough to pilot his own jet. He was still fit enough to meet all those people he needed to before signing with Rabin the peace agreement between Jordan and Israel.
1994, yeah.
Is the oldest church in existence and the first and the last which adopted Jesus' tongue in order to bring their liturgy to the faithful.
That's the oldest church.
They speak Aramaic.
Until now.
Their liturgy would be discernible to you, and inside, of course, we fell on a place where the gates are locked, there are workmen down in the crypt. So do what you can and check in Google what this emblem stands for, looking for this name, which is the official name of the church.
I've taken a photo of it.
And I must tell you this incredible story which I went through, not here.
Yeah.
I was with my then wife in Windsor, where the Queen's second home is.
Yeah, I've been.
And we were having a cup of tea in a place, opposite Woods of Windsor. Yeah. If you know anything about cosmetics and perfumes.
No, I don't.
Haven't? Okay, no one. And between the two of us, we were talking Hebrew, and there was this woman who was extremely agitated and kept sidling up in our direction. She said, "You must forgive me. You must forgive me because your language is so familiar to my language and the language of my church, which is not Arabic, certainly not Hebrew." And she said, "Can I please ask of you to tell me what language it is you're speaking, because there are words here and there which I can understand from the liturgy." And this is the first time I'd ever heard of this minuscule church called
Syria.
And everyone that's left of the community here in Jerusalem, once again, this story of getting a foothold in the holy city. All the family, the ones which are just coming to check us out here.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember the name, because it has an absolutely fascinating story in Google.
Yeah.
I've got the material, but it's too heavy.
When I've got...
The last time I was here with a party of people, we literally got thrown out on our, what do you say, on our butts.
Where's the church? Here?
Here, this log church is the church. The alternative version. They are the closest things which exist today of the original Jewish Christian faith, which actually had this understanding that when Jesus was crucified, the papacy of the church, of this little church,
Yeah.
these few followers,
Yeah.
the papacy was handed on to his brother. His brother, the one whose convent we've just come from,
Yeah.
Saint James, where you peeped inside,
Yes.
he was thrown off the corner of the Dome of the Rock. He was killed.
Wow.
At that stage, the fellow travellers who were Jewish decided to smuggle the wife and the children of Jesus to France.
The Last Supper. The Last Supper.
The Last Supper is here. It's a tapestry of Da Vinci, which actually shows Jesus and Mary as a single entity, and with 11 other apostles beside the two of them. And that was the first explosion. Almost immediately within the first century after Jesus, there was in fact this incredible schism within the church of the Orthodox, the Eastern Church,
Yeah.
and the Catholic.
Yeah.
The split with the Orthodox and the Catholic,
Syria.
Protestants. Here we go. We may just be in that.
Hello, where are you from?
We're from Australia.
Come.
You go and read. It's in Aramaic.
Take your seat, take your seat.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Take your seat.
Shukran awal.
You talk English.
Please.
You are welcome. This is the first church in Christianity. The house of Saint Marco's mother. The apostles chose this house to be the first church in Christianity after they received the Holy Spirit here. We are Aramaic people, talking the same language of Abraham, the father of everybody. The same language Jesus used it in his daily life. Still, there is 1 million of us speaking Aramaic in their houses as the first language. It is the language of our baby, the language of the prayers. What's important in this place, this inscription. They discovered in this place. At that time, there is thick cover to all the stone of the church. They knocked it to let it in you, while this inscription appeared, covered by material who kept it, written in Aramaic, the language of Jesus, from right to left. Say that this is the house of Saint Marco's mother. The apostles chose it to be the first church in Christianity after they received the Holy Spirit here. The top of this church, destroyed for the first time at 70 AD, when the Marshal Titus came to this town, destroyed all the town, and rebuilt 3 years after 73 AD.
The Arch of Titus.
In the upper room of the house down, Jesus did the Last Supper, also washing feet. Down the real place for the Last Supper. When Jesus decided to do the Last Supper, sent 2 of his apostles, St. Peter, St. John, told them, "You will enter the city of Jerusalem, and so many carry jar of water. Follow him to know the place where you can prepare for the Last Supper." At that day, only the women carried jars full of water. The men at that time prepared themselves to the war to keep the land if anybody attacked them. Jesus put in the mind of St. Mark to stand in the market carrying the jar. The apostle know him, follow him, until he reached the house of his mother down. They entered, they asked him, "Our master wants you to show us where we can prepare to the Last Supper." They prepared it in the upper room.
This was the house of the mother of Mark. Is there the possibility of going down into the crypt?
No.
Is it being repaired?
Now there is a preparation.
Ah.
A water from the Nepal came with the electricity danger. They cut the wire.
David, downstairs
Sit.
there is a smaller...
Hello, hello. Close it, close it, close it,
Close?
close it.
Okay.
I sing to you the Lord's Prayer.
Uh-huh.
Our Father in heaven.
Is in heaven.
In Aramaic, the language of Jesus, to let you hear this language.
Yes.
2 or 3 minutes. شنبوا وبروا وروحوا حي قديشو حاد أروه الشريرو أمين أبون دبش ماي نسق داش الشموخ
Amen. Amen.
This is so beautiful.
Yeah, this is the language of Jesus. Of course, every day, morning, evening, we pray in this language. Each Friday there is here liturgy. Each Sunday another liturgy in the Holy Sepulchre. Each Wednesday another liturgy in El Gethsemane. At least 3 masses weekly, every day, morning, evening prayer. You are welcome.
This was beautiful, and I want to give you the blessing of Jesus, not in Aramaic, not in Arabic, but in the original language that he used here for doing the blessings. Everything that happened here was in Aramaic, but the blessings were something else.
Listen, you have no permission to put your hand on my head.
I wasn't
Hello,
going to, but
please.
never mind.
Stop.
Well, this was an incredible experience.
Yes, it was.
And I learned more from what didn't happen than from what did. It's all summed up here. The Syriac Church is the first church. What we actually were trying to think, this concept of the Christian Jewish church, the Church of Jesus. That's what Jesus was. He was a Christian Jewish church who had no disciples other than Jews.
Benji, you fall.
Hammering the theological message home.
Of course.
That's what the word means. Hammering the Catholic message home is called propaganda.
Not Catholic.
not Catholic. Propaganda. The Catholic Church.
What were you thinking? When the muezzin opened up in prayer, he's recorded by the way, so you can't stop it. Okay. What were you thinking the moment that he started I was summoning the faithful. I was thinking about walking down there. It would be out of place. Because it's a whole different truth. I don't want to go at this stage any further towards the Dome of the Rock. You want to avoid waiting.
In Arabic it's souk.
Shoot.
Souk?
Shufi shuk. So,
Ah, souk.
so
Souk.
he's trying to speak a kind of Arabic which is used only by the villages around. There is an urban Arabic, a Jerusalem Arabic, which means he shouldn't say souk, he should say souk. You notice the difference?
Souk.
Neither
Souk.
did I.
Shukran.
In the middle of the thing,
Yes.
there's a congregation being called to prayer. Okay? You go a little closer and you can take a shot into the mosque. Offshoot of Jerusalem the Ancient for the rest of the world. I took a trip to Malta in order to suss out the connection between the Templar Hospitallers who inherited the Templar fortune and became a well-wishing, good-act-doing, chivalrous order, the Hospitallers with the Maltese falcon. If you want to go into Google, you can understand what these 8 points of the Maltese cross, what they are. This was the garment which was worn by the warriors of the hospital order before they became a first aid organization. In Britain, if there's a garment fitting to the local regiment, there's an ambulance, St. John's ambulance. And I'm telling you, like I tell you 100 times, this Jerusalem explains why in theological terms people quite simply are not allowed to communicate with God other than through the clergy. That's a personal note.
I missed the point again. Why?
That's what
Not allowed to communicate except through a priest. That's a bit Catholic, isn't it? No,
it is exactly the same thing in Judaism, David. Do not be tricked by things which people try and sell you. The power of the clergy in Judaism is no different from the power of the clergy in the Catholic Church, in Islam, and probably in 100 other Buddhist, Jainist congregations which I'm not that familiar with.
Okay.
You mean it's greater or lesser or it's the same?
The essence of Judaism is that each individual may communicate with God in whichever way he sees fit as a one-to-one dialogue. Look at Shalom Aleichem. Look at what's he called, the Fiddler on the Roof. Okay? The Fiddler on the Roof was non-stop conversing with God and arguing with God. He didn't have a rabbi there, he didn't have a lecturer, and he didn't have anyone checking whether his propaganda fits in with the local theology.
And is it different from Islam and Christianity?
Completely. It's completely. Judaism in that sense is unique. That doesn't mean that the rabbis and the various clergy that Judaism has are not people who hold their believers by the balls. And I'm awfully sorry that I get irate about it, but this is basically what I feel about organized religion, and I adopted it from my father, who is a Yeka. In this place, what I told you about the English cross, the red cross on the white background, this is exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing for the flag of the Hospitallers.
Like the Swiss flag.
The flag of the Hospitallers was carried from this place by dint of Saladin, and they went for 200 years and occupied the island of Rhodes. From Rhodes, they spent another 200 years occupying Malta, and they are the ones who give Malta their incredibly special mix of Islam and of Christianity.
Okay.
Pre-Jesus Christianity.
Yeah.
Their founders, I think they were given the order by the Pope in around the year 1150, something like that, after the Templars came. And when the Catholic Church and the Inquisition had done away with the Templars, and this guy I told you, which I still hope I can manage to get you to see a portrait of the man who was the Shroud of Turin, the physical body of the second coming of Jesus. And once again, this is not the authorized version. This is the Dan Brown alternative version, which we have just had the pleasure of actually being revealed to. And for me, this was a total revelation. A woman given an explanation on liturgical. A woman with a whip in her hand, ready to cane her naughty pupils if they spun their camera at the wrong time. And still, I felt tempted to see how she's going to react when I give her a priestly blessing. See what she did.
Yeah, no.
So, I went into this place. I went into the Hospitallers, and I found literally dozens of different outfits all over the world on the basis of charity and ambulance work and firemen. All of them carry this Maltese cross as a background. Okay, allow me to introduce you to a cold bottle of water for 5 shekels. Didn't I already tell you the last time that we came and...
What did you tell us?
What?
What did you tell us?
I told you what the time was.
You ask about the time?
Yeah, because you looked at me like people who have a lot of time.
You want the time now?
No, my friend. I want dozens and dozens of tourists to come your way so that you can make a living.
Thank you very much.
Maybe you didn't notice, but there's a war.
Appreciate your kindness.
I so much appreciate your appreciation of my kindness. Thank you so much. And I trust we shall meet again. Did David disappear inside? Where it's lucky. Okay. Anti-Catholic, Protestant. He was God. And he passed his name on to the God of Stevie Wonder and of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
That if you want to vote out, you actually have to submit the request to the state, to the Ministry of the Interior, and it was extremely fortunate on my part that Pirko was the daughter of the Ministry of the Interior.
How comes we become Luton?
So why March 2000? Because it was absolutely certain to all the authorities in this country that the year in which the Pope revisited the Polish Catholic Pope, Wojtyla,
John Paul II.
I think he was John Paul II is indeed what he was called because he took his name from the previous two popes, John and Paul. The John that there was there, and I say this again to you with all due respect, the name John and John is actually the death of Christianity or the Judaism in Christianity.
Okay, well, I don't like the name John anyway.
Anyway, okay. In this country, they were absolutely convinced that when the Pope came here, at the same time as Jesus was going to be reincarnated for his return visit, that there were going to be thousands upon thousands of people suffering from Jerusalem syndrome, lo aleinu.
Which means?
Jerusalem syndrome means something very simple.
Yeah.
Something happens to people when they are in the air and on the ground of Jerusalem who are absolutely without any kind of background of mental instability or illness. They come here, they start chucking their clothes off, they start burning down the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Wow.
And it's known in the psychiatric lexicon as the Jerusalem syndrome. And they were convinced there would be hundreds and thousands.
Yeah.
In the end,
How do you explain the Jerusalem syndrome?
I don't.
What's the cause? What
I've
is
read an awful lot about it.
it? Tell us.
I still don't claim to understand it, and neither do.
On one leg.
On one leg, all that you can do with Jerusalem syndrome is cure it. And you can only cure it by a huge dose of calming the person down physically, putting him on a plane and flying him back to Buenos Aires.
I meant, what's the trigger? What triggers Jerusalem syndrome? On one leg.
It isn't a story for one leg.
Second leg.
All I can tell you about the standing on one leg is that Jews do not generally suffer from it. I'll give you an example of one who did. There was a South American-born Florida real estate guy, very, very young, who came here with his millions. The first thing that he did was to buy the most important football team in this country, soccer. Okay? His name was Aguirre, not that important. The last place he was known to have inhabited as a free citizen was that he was climbing the fence into Gaza, and when the soldiers came and pulled him down, he said, "I'm just going to release Gilad Shalit." And they said, "Okay, sunshine, you will be disappeared." And he was disappeared. They put him back on his ship in Florida, and the ship was found abandoned with no Aguirre.
Why do Jews suffer or enjoy Jerusalem syndrome less
Because
than Christian?
Jerusalem is full of the kind of energy that Jews, please excuse me, this is not favoritism, but Jews know how to utilize, what to do with it, and to keep a level head. What we are talking about is actually the attempt of people like me, may I rest in eternal peace for saying so, who actually try to bring down celestial Jerusalem to an earthly Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And there are people, by the way, there are two offshoots of this particular disposition called Jerusalem syndrome. One of them is Americans in Florence,
Yeah.
and the other is Japanese in Paris.
Really?
Some similarity.
You'll find it on the net, you'll find it as an explanation, you won't find it as a therapy because there is none.
Yeah.
And
Fascinating.
we all know the dangers of Jerusalem syndrome. It's jihad.
What do you mean jihad?
Could you paraphrase
It's
that?
jihad. Once you became a fanatic of Jerusalem and for Jerusalem, you'll kill.
Okay.
Is there any chance?
Jihad is the ultimate Jerusalem syndrome.
Is there any chance David will get Jerusalem
No,
syndrome?
no way.
Why not?
Because he's got a Jewish soul.
That's why.
He has a Jewish soul, and there's no danger whatsoever of him picking up this thing by chance. He's not going to. I already seen him a couple of days wearing the same clothes, so he's certainly not going to run through the streets of Jerusalem discarding
Naked.
his raiments of garments of things.
I don't want to get sunburned.
See? I saw him when he was climbing that. That is not Jerusalem syndrome.
Oh, that's
Jihad is Jerusalem syndrome.
Really?
An organized, massive threat that the Jews may actually occupy Waqf land underneath the dome of the rock.
So even this kind of madness you associate with.
Absolutely.
so. Is Jerusalem syndrome is sort of almost like an anti-Jewish thing?
No, all I said was that statistically, Jews are not that prone
To it.
to the business. It's not that they cannot. This guy that I was describing just now, the South American multimillionaire, he was half Jewish.
Okay, so it's a form of fanaticism.
It's a form of fanaticism which is totally of the soul.
Okay.
And jihad.
Benji, do you have some form of Jerusalem syndrome?
Do I? I have been known at times in the past to go way beyond what should be said and what should be done and with whom, and I've usually been forgiven.
It's because of the Jerusalem influence triggers.
Absolutely. There are days when I've come back from a day in Jerusalem, business meetings, checking out things, visiting people, that I come home and I'm capable of flying. One of my friends, who's a medium, said, "You do realize, don't you, that it's not Jerusalem syndrome that you are serving. But the serving is being done for you to test and try your ability to live with this incredibly, what is the word in English? Something that's conflagracious? Something which is incendiary. Jerusalem is incendiary. It has nothing to do with the temperature of the air. It has nothing to do with the state of the trees. It has nothing to do with the degree of commerce which is being done in commercial centers. But it is here. It is here for one and all, and it is in such an incredible condensed mass, basically of religion and basically of faith, that it is not safe for the world. I know people who have left Jerusalem, who have ceased living in Jerusalem because of the dangers which are inherent in Jerusalem syndrome. There is no cure. It can be diagnosed as, if it lasts between 3 and 4 days and no more, then it's easily tranquilized and flown off the planet. And it's been for me a heavy burden because Jerusalem does it for me.
But it's both happiness and high and highness.
Everything. It's everything which is a high level of energy and energy between people. You check out now when you get home, make your own little booklet of the people you spoke to today, what you spoke about them. You'll never find another place on earth where you can go through a similar experience anonymously. Nobody asked you your name. They did formally say, so where are you from? You're from Australia, da, 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 da. And each one of them had a message. Each one of them had their way of saying, we are Jerusalem. And I'll say it again in simple terms. All that I see people that are actually afflicted by one thing and another is the ability, the hope of bringing down celestial Jerusalem to earthly.
Yeah, which is all this. Yeah, most of this focus about this Columbia, New World Order. Yeah, but I didn't take it. And I treated I don't.
They're real monks. They're not Umberto Eco. The name of the dirt poor priests.
Why dirt poor?
What I just said, by the way, David, is that these are the living quarters of these dirt poor priests. This is what they were relegated to the roof of this church, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And I once had to smuggle a rifle through this church because I was working with soldiers who were not allowed to have their rifles out. It was Shear's unit. Shmone Matay. Do you hear? And they look after the little which the Coptic Church has managed to squeeze over the battling Gregorians, the battling Georgians, and above all, the battling Greek Orthodox, who are the big daddies of the whole of the Christian world, actually. For the Coptic community, these people are monks. But like in all Eastern Orthodox, the monks are married. The monks have a family.
Really?
The monks have children. The monks send their kids to school.
Really?
And as far as the
He
Coptic,
knows? He knows?
as far as the Coptic community is concerned, the other buildings in Jerusalem are quite ornate. The emperors were Haile Selassie was one of the most revered figures in Africa. Now I'll tell you the connection with Bob Marley, okay? The flag of Ethiopia is green, red, and yellow. The guys in Jamaica, the Rastafarians, regarded Haile Selassie as the Messiah, Messiah. Okay? They even say that when somebody came to take Haile Selassie away on a blue beetle, that at the same time the community in Dimona, they latched onto this and said, we also follow Haile Selassie. And Bob Marley prayed at the feet of Haile Selassie and added the color black. You've seen these Rasta hats with the Rastafarians, okay? They're green, red, and yellow, and black.
Because of Haile Selassie. Was Haile Selassie in Israel or no? He came here?
I don't know. Really, I don't know. When he would have come to Israel, I didn't know where Ethiopia was. I had to travel to Africa to find out where Ethiopia was.
You can find on Google. Google.
I forgot to say, by the way, the high technology equipment they use.
Very high technology.
Okay. Do your families live here with you?
No. So just monk.
Uh-huh. And
No children, no. That's monk.
the church in the street of the Habashim, of the Ethiopians, these are monks with families?
No.
Also no. So all the buildings in Heleni Hamalka, the buildings built by Menelik and by the Empress, there is a non-religious community here of Ethiopian Copts. And they have a community life like everybody else. I was invited once to a wedding. Shall we glide down into the hot sea?
We're
The
not doing,
last station of the cross?
we're not doing some Google search on Haile Selassie.
Absolutely.
Haile Selassie.
By the way, the second emblem which we use are these white doves, who in Catholicism, they're considered to be the Holy Spirit. And when John the Baptist had a challenge from Jesus, and vice versa, the actual trial was over whom and over whose head the white dove was born. Jesus on earth. Doesn't Are you absolutely sure that the computer understands Coptic? Okay. He's no. This is here. If you need Wi-Fi. That's my little miracle for the day. Of the church called the Coptic monks. Be well. Try it. Try it.
Thank you.
Check out that picture. On the right of the gentleman with the elephant tusks, you can see he's a chassid. You can film it afterwards. This is what I was talking about. These are the three colors of the Ethiopians: green, yellow, and red. And the Rastafarians in Jamaica added black. Black, the color of the skins; green, the color of ganja. Grass. The sun.
Which grass?
Grass. It's the official weed of Jamaica. No? It's called ganja.
You don't smoke it. You don't smoke it.
I think there's plenty enough in Jerusalem in the air that you can smoke to get as high as you ever like. That's my problem. These three tiny chapels are all the Ethiopians and the Copts have as a share of the holiest building in Christendom. This little chapel, the two that we've come through. I think we may also find that this is St. George and the Dragon. I didn't get through to the end of the symbology of this, but St. George and the Dragon is familiar to an awful lot of Eastern Orthodox churches.
This is the English flag at the top, which I keep telling you about. The English football supporters paint a red cross on their face, and at the edges, white wristband. And they're a terrible lot. They are a terrible lot.
English sports fans are terrible.
English football supporters.
They're dreadful.
Do you know that it's lucky that David lives about a kilometre away from Old Trafford, the high temple of British football?
Yes.
And he supports who?
It doesn't matter who he supports, he just listens to the roar every time a goal is scored.
Yes, I can hear it. Also, when they're losing and they get tense, you can hear it. Just last year.
As I asked him about the Kippas Sulga, he was quite happy to tell. גן נובע בתוך עין אל-אסד שמתחיל בבית ג'ן. יש כזה.
בית ג'ן לעין אסד מה יש?
Okay, I'm getting close. I'm getting close.
בית ג'ן לעין אסד מה יש כאן?
תזכיר לי.
אתה צריך לדעת.
לא, אני כבר שכחתי כי אני עוסק בדברים אחרים בשנים
No, Benji, keep guessing.
רמי.
רמי.
מכיר?
There is an absolutely beautiful singer-actress who appeared in the Eurovision from this gentleman's village.
Really?
Her name is Mira Awad. This gentleman is from the Carmel, from one of the two villages which didn't want to. הם לא רצו כל כך לעבוד ביחד, נכון? עוספי בקשר למקום שאתה בא ממנו. אתה לא משם? המשפחה שלך? לא, אין לי, אני הולך רק על חלבי. אני בינתיים הולך על הכנפי צנחנים שלך, אבל זה לא... That the higher one goes in the semi-secret Druze religion, the higher one becomes also in the way one dresses. In other words, they have rank by the... One of them is the red hat, and there is no one ever since and never will be of the high rank of... When you see pictures of Amin Tarif, you quite literally see the glow coming out of his face.
Really?
Yeah.
And he live in which century?
אני לא מקשקש. מתי הוא נפטר? The family inherits the title, like the Baba Sali. Okay,
Really?
Abu Khatzera.
When would he live? Which century?
I didn't quite catch it. You can ask him again. When did he pass away?
When did he pass away? מתי הוא נפטר?
And if you want to see his tomb, you have to go to Julis. Julis?
The tomb is in Julis.
The tomb is in Julis, and that's his home, and that's his tomb. And I'd be happy to take you there.
Okay.
Because it's a fascinating, fascinating story, the whole history of the Middle Eastern Druze amongst rival Mishtarim.
And the Druze started in this area,
In southern Lebanon.
southern Lebanon. הר הדרוזים.
ההתחלה של הדרוזים היה למעשה בהר לבנון, צפון כן, אני מדבר על לפני 1000 שנה. כן. אוקיי. אני מאחל לך בקרוב שתוכל לבקר גם שם. נו. מי לא אתם שיביאו את זה? This is the most important thing. Everything I've been hammering at you about Gilgul, about reincarnation, he says quite happily and smilingly, well, if we get that far in this incarnation, there will be peace. We'll keep on trying, but it might come in the next incarnation and the next incarnation.
So you are a Druze.
I'm something close, I'm a Sufi.
על בנג'י. בנג'י, חכה, תשגיח עליו.
Okay, Isaac, I'm going down.
בנג'י, בנג'י look after you. בנג'י, תשגיח עליו. Go beyond Benji, it's very slow.
But he has to move
You
ahead.
can even molest him. Yeah, fine.
Came to Israel and he invited the archiepatriarch of the Byzantine Church in Istanbul, Hagia Sophia, to pray with him on that slab of stone. And they did it. And all that he was interested in coming into this country, nothing to do with making peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. He's on this massive campaign. On the cross, bathed in oil, and then buried under Calvary. Yes, on this stone.
So he is the holiest of holiest for the...
No, the holiest of the holiest is the place where he was buried.
He wasn't there. I was this place here.
This is just the place where the women did the dressing of the body. I don't want to tell you who's who, but one is his wife and one is his mother. And they were both called Mary.
Do you see him?